Greetings, members of the human species. Does race exist? He has a plan, she has a plan, and you get to pay for it regardless.
The best way to get someone motivated is to stand for something strongly, deeply, passionately.
Subscribe to Disenthrall. Do as you're told.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we have for you special guest Dale. Welcome to the show, Dale.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The reason why we have that, so often I encounter these potentials for amazing discussion on Facebook, but Facebook is a terrible place to have discussions about anything. It's terrible. And I just relearned this lesson yesterday where I just spent 7 hours of my lifespan just shitting it away, like trying to debate people and to try and find truth. And so what I've tried to teach people and tell people to do is what I did with you. I saw you post something on your wall that I found interesting. And rather than start keyboard pounding, I invited you to a discussion. And luckily you were one of the few people that has sort of the balls to show up for what they have to say and talk about it. And so I wanted to invite... So I invited you, you accepted, and I have my partner in victimless crime, Kaysen, here with me. Welcome, Kaysen.
Hello, everybody.
So, welcome to the show, Dale. It's good to have you.
All right. Great to be here.
So, let's just start with the reason why I invited you. Here was the post. Ta-da! Dale Brown says, racial profiling does not exist. Race does not exist. If race existed, it would not be based upon skin color or phenotype. Ethnic bias, discrimination, bigotry, prejudice, lynching, massacres, and genocides are real. Ethnic terrorism is real. Can you explain yourself, sir? What does that mean?
Unpack all of that.
Yeah.
Let's start from the beginning. The first, right? It's like several subjects in one post designed to get me this show right here.
Hey, it works.
So what's the first line? The first one is your race does not exist. Race does not exist, and you know it. It's not a real thing. It's not a real identification. And you know that because it's not on your driver's license. It's not on your birth certificate anymore. That fakeness that used to be there, by the way, it was there. Used to say C on the birth certificate of African Americans, which stood for, I guess, colored person. But I guess there was no UC for uncolored people, which is really odd. I don't understand how you can have colored people, but no uncolored. That sounds dumb. So I guess they got rid of colored people back in the 60s. So now it's just, you're just a people on your birth certificate because race does not exist. It's not on your passport. It's not on your driver's license. It's not real. It's a social construct. So the reason why we have an issue is because you have a history of behavior that's tribal in nature, and it's been watered down into these larger spaces that don't make any sense, like your skin color being somehow the core of the issue, which we know is just not true. But they kind of watered it down for, I guess, dumbed it down for the basic person. But you know for a fact that there's no blonde hair, blue eyed Jewish person that got a pass from Nazis in World War II. 20 million European Christians died just in Russia alone, and they were pale. So there was no such thing as you have white skin, so therefore we won't kill you. And in Africa, the Africans are still selling Africans right now. So clearly, skin color is not a ethnic group. It never was in any community ever. There's never been a time where China, Japanese people, and Koreans ever got along because they had yellow skin. They never say yellow power. The whole concept of skin and ethnic identity just is not real. And of course, race is not real. So that's how that first begins. And that post is just speaking truth to reality. And so once you can accept that one truth, you now can have a better conversation about why people do things and what they've done, and also how to make better decisions so you can make a better world, which you can't do living lies. So if you say that your skin color is your ethnic group, and then somehow you're supposed to get along, you know that's not true. That never actually existed. So therefore, what you're doing is lying, and you're going to create a bigger problem with that lie. So first thing you're going to do is start with truth, and then begin to look at why people make the decisions they do if you want to help them make better decisions to have a better societal structure where people get along better and have more cohesive, peaceful society, which is my point. So my purpose of all my posts are one thing, and my existence is to make the world a safer place for everyone. So keep that in mind, that everything I'm about is about positivity and about cohesion of societies so that people can have a better quality of life, more successful based upon safety, which we can't do by lying to each other about creating collectives that are not true. True collectives, false collectives that ultimately lead to violence. At the end of the day, our collective is not just going to be a collective, it's going to be a collective that somehow has to be a collective that creates more violence, and then that collective creates violence. So the key is start using truth, and then from that truth, develop strategies for cohesiveness so that you don't have the continual path of violence we've always had in human societies. That's my point.
It seems like there's, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because you have some direct experience in this area, but at least, well, this is begging the question, but at least at the inter-country level, it seems like most violence is or requires or includes some bit of collectivism. It's like when people stop thinking of each other as individuals and interacting as individuals, and they start thinking of each other in terms of their collective labels, it's like the community term, adjective hyphen community. Anything that you insert into that adjective hyphen community seems to be going to that tribalism that you mentioned that seems to be like part of the human species DNA. It's just like people need to group themselves together into these collectives and then start trying to apply ethics to those collectives rather than treating people individually. What is the difference between race and ethnicity?
Ethnic identity, everyone has one. So when they say, you hear the stupid collective term, ethnic people, everyone has an ethnic identity. Your ethnic identity is the land of your family's origin, the language of your family, and the lineage, the family name of your family. That's who you actually are. You're not your skin color. No one just made up a name normally. Your name is from your family. Your language is from your family. And you guys come from a place. Everyone does. And that's why you're different from someone else. Not because you're taller or prettier or uglier or something. There's Irish people from the Highlands. There's Irish people from the Lowlands. There's British people. It doesn't matter how pale they are. What they care about is their family language, their family, and they speak similar languages, right? In Scotland and Ireland, but they also have their own diction, which tells them what part of Ireland they're from.
I'm sorry, I'm getting I had this thing open. Sorry, go ahead. All right, go ahead, Jason.
And the British, don't get along with the Irish, don't get along with the Scottish. It has nothing to do with skin color. They're even Christians, but they're still, it's not the type of, now it's the, now the different types of Christians matter, right? Catholic and Protestant, which are still killing each other right now. So the concept that your ethnic identity would be related to your skin color is just not true. And then, of course, a lot of Americans don't know that there was always Africans in, Scotland, Ireland, England throughout time. It's not a new thing. They've always been there, and they're part of the history of those countries, deeply ingrained. So we tend to look at things very black and white in this country. And we really try hard to put it into these categories, which are completely fake. And so the first thing we have to do, if we're going to have a better society that's more cohesive, more intelligent, is we have to learn true history. That's one of our first problems is all of the history we learned in our government schools, right, is a hoax. It really is a hoax. It's literally propaganda, Eurocentric propaganda that is nefarious in nature. It's completely off pace. It is not real at all. Almost all of it is completely contrived, and all of it's distorted. So until we study truth, we won't be able to even understand the conditions we're in now. So there's no way we cannot recreate negative conditions in our future because we're not aware of the negative conditions that led to where we are now. Mm. And so one of the first things you hear me talk about in my post is to get a better understanding of truth so we can start having real dialogue, real conversations.
Yeah, the closer our knowledge and positions are to reality, the more we're able to act in the world with agency. So that I agree that's absolutely important. Somebody Rock Down to in the comments says, how about the check-a-box? You know the one. My wife is Dominican, and we got our marriage license in North Carolina, and it had Caucasian, Black, Hispanic, Latino, and Native American. My wife was really confused because she's not from the States, and she looked at me and was confused and said, why do you even have this?
Right. It doesn't make any sense. Think about this. What is a person from Dominican Republic? What is a person from Puerto Rico? All they are African people that were transferred there from Africa and mixed with the natives there that didn't die from different diseases. So they're essentially just all members of the African diaspora. But they're not, let's be clear, Americans of African heritage, which is why they have names that correspond with their island and their family. They're Hispanic. That's why they speak Spanish, and that's why their name is from Europe, Spain, right? It's not from the indigenous people of that land, of that island. And so that's the other thing that gets really, especially people from Dominican Republic, people from Puerto Rico are very confused because there's Taino people, the people of the islands that live there, and then the Europeans mixed with them, and so everyone's mixed anyway. So there's no such thing as a purebred African descendant of non-consensual immigration. So that did not happen. There's no one. Now there are African Americans like Charlize Theron and Elon Musk and Obama's father. Those are African Americans. They're born in Africa, then they came to America. So that's not like my people. My people are from Africans that did not come to America. My lineage comes from those people that were captives. And so our lineage is from our European family members that are non-consensual family members at some point, and then later became consensual for survival reasons. Every single African American is mixed with Europeans, first by no choice, later by choice. So Italians were considered subhumans. Irish were considered subhumans because they're Catholics. Catholics are subhumans. And so those people and the African descendants of captives blended together for survival and safety against the nativists. And the nativists were the Europeans that consider themselves the people of the new Americas that do not genuinely identify with their European ancestry, except when having a conversation, perhaps about the European ancestors. So generally they'll say things like, I'm an American, but they will leave out, unless you start talking about their lineage, they won't say, oh, we're from Hungary, we're from, New Zealand, excuse me, we're from French, we're German, they won't say, especially Germans. Because remember, one time it was not good to be German. At one time in the United States, Germans were hunted and beaten and attacked because they were German. So that would be just before World War I and just after in some cases, but not really. Somewhere around World War I when it changed. But a lot of Germans changed their names because they were being discriminated against. And so they became another name. And that's just not just Germans that came to the United States. The Windsors are not actually the Windsors. They're actually a German family, by the way. I don't know if you know that. That's because Germans were not welcome in England, and the Windsors they had to change their name to I think they're not Bilderbergs, but some other German group. But anyway, my point is this. So once we understand that these different people changed their names from Europe, we understand the reason they had to is for survival. Once we understand that Africans were in different islands and different places all over the world, we also understand that society is blended. And so the idea that skin color somehow identifies the group is completely ridiculous. It never did describe the group. In Africa, in Mali, and Mauritania, right now, they are selling African people that are Muslims, and they are Muslims. So there's no such thing as Muslim Brotherhood. Right now, if you go to YouTube, you'll find Muslims discussing the fact that they're still being attacked and enslaved by other Muslims. And they're very dark complected. They're my skin color or darker. So when I talk about the North Muslims, the northern, like Libyan type, which doesn't matter, they're still Africans. We're talking about dark complected Africans still selling other Africans right now. Skin color was never, ever a part of identity of any African tribe. And it isn't right now. So you're talking about thousands upon thousands of people that are still being held as slaves in Africa as we speak in 2020. So clearly, if there was some kind of skin color collective that meant something, there wouldn't be slavery in Africa 700 years before Europeans even came to Africa to buy their first slave. So there's no correlation between skin and kin.
First of all, I had no idea that slavery was still a thing somewhere in the world. I don't understand why that's not kind of headlines until it's taken care of. Like that, it's just like the North Korea stuff. Like those people are literally in a country that has been turned into a gulag. They are effective prisoners. Why is no one freeing them? That just seems insane to me. And so now there's slaves. There's slaves out there. What is being done about the slaves? Can we get a posse together? Holy shit! Like,
right. Hey, that was funny. I put on Facebook some years ago. I said, we need to go. And I said, we got a freedom ship. I put a picture of a ship up there because I'm pissed off because people will go get on a ship to go save some damn seals. Seals and whales? Are you serious? You'll go to Antarctica on a damn ship with helicopters and jet boats?
Yeah.
Let's go free some people, man. Let's go. And
I had no idea. Why did I have no idea? Like, I pay attention to the news every day to do this show and other shows, and I have never heard that there's literal slaves right now. I even want to verify this. Like, it seems so insane to me. I want to verify it.
Listen, I'm so glad you brought this up. A guy that I met in the libertarian anarchist movement, who's into special economic zones, he's the one who said, well, there's slavery right now. And I was like, bullshit. There's no slavery right now. It's not like there was. They're like, no, it's really right now. I was like, okay, no, rich kid from Europe. He's like some kind of, I don't know, trust fund kid, super rich. But anyway, he's like, yeah, it's still slavery right now. Lots of people. I was like, bullshit. There's no slavery in Africa. Not like that. I mean, like sex slave or something. No, he said there's actual slave markets. And I did research to prove him wrong. And it turns out I was wrong. There's lots of slavery going on, and there are protests. But you know what there's never been? An actual African Muslim abolitionist that's famous, not one. But there's been many Christian European abolitionists, including a guy, are you ready for this? This is horrible. This is shocking. Cassius Clay. Cassius Clay is a Yale graduate abolitionist.
Okay. I don't know who that is. I'm missing something. Sorry.
Muhammad Ali's mother named him after Cassius Clay.
Okay.
Muhammad Ali is named after a Muslim warrior
Okay.
from the Ottoman Empire. Ottoman Empire are Aryans. Muhammad Ali looks like Santa Claus because Muhammad Ali is born in Albania. He's European.
Okay.
So Muhammad Ali, the boxer, renamed himself after a Muslim whose job it was, who's only known famous for killing dark-skinned Mamelukes, or slaves, what that word means, in Africa. The dark-skinned Africans were put out of Egypt by a guy who looked like Santa Claus, who's Muslim, named Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
Look that one.
Okay.
Think about that. Muhammad Ali, the boxer, said, I don't want to have my slave name, took his European-American abolitionist name, threw it away for an African Muslim name that turns out to be an Albanian name of a guy who killed and enslaved Africans.
Oops.
Yeah, oops. Kind of late to try to change back. By the way, I'm going to be Cassius Clay now. I got to go back. I'd like to take this back. I don't want to be a Muslim that killed and enslaved Africans. I don't want to do that now. I'd like to be known as the European-American Yale graduate abolitionist. I'd like to rename myself back to my original name, please.
Wow.
So he just kept it. That's because the Nation of Islam and other Islamic African Americans that are ignorant to the reality of Islam believes somehow that Islam is closer to African people or something. Because there are, let me ask you this: how many people do you think live in Africa? If you had to guess.
No idea. I'd have to look it up.
No, I know, but just guess. Where's your mind? You're off the top of your head. America has 325 million.
500 million.
How many people does Africa?
A billion?
Don't look it up. Don't Google it. I see you.
I'm guessing 500 million. Now I'm looking it up.
Okay, that's a good guess. All right, now
1.3 billion, right? Wow.
Right, that's after genocides. That's after a bunch of European genocides. That's the number still there.
Okay.
So, watch this. How many people of the 1.3 billion do you think are Christians? Guess, don't look.
300 million.
Okay. And how many Christians are there in America?
170 million. I'm just guessing. I have no idea.
Everyone's a Christian here, man, except for like 5 million people or something. It's
Oh, really?
300 million,
Okay.
320 million Christians in America.
Oh, really? Okay.
Gotta be, yeah. So, I mean, I doubt we have 5 million others. But anyway, did you know there's 350 million Christians in Africa? There's more Christians in Africa than there are people in the United States.
Okay.
You think people know that? Like just you, me, and whoever's listening, about 10 other people I said it to who thought I was lying. And of course, all the Christians who live in Africa are like, yeah, there's lots of us. And then, by the way, they had slaves too. Until Muhammad Ali made it illegal for Christians to have slaves.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's my twist right there. That twist your mind.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Christians, they petitioned to have slaves in Africa, and Muhammad Ali would not allow them. Only Muslims were allowed to have slaves, which would also be very upsetting to the Nation of Islam and other Islamic-based educational resources in this country who believe that somehow that the Islamic faith is related to skin color in some positive way, which it completely is not. So the majority right now, there are no Christian overt organizations or countries that enslave people, but there are majority Muslim countries that still have a serious problem enslaving other Muslims and non-Muslims as well. So that's because in order for us to have the next conversation about ethnicity or the concept why race is not real, there's some factual context that takes away all the belief systems behind the concept of skin color and race. But of course, then there's the reality of who created race. Johann Blumenbach, a German anthropologist, Johann Blumenbach. He created the 5 races, and nobody wants to be any of the 5 races. Nobody wants to be a Caucasoid. Nobody. Nobody wants to be a Negroid. Nobody even knows what a Capoid is. What's a Capoid? It's a Native American.
Oh, okay. All right.
Right, exactly. They'd be the first one to be surprised. We are Capoid. When did that happen?
Didn't he do this like based on some physiological characteristics or something? I don't know anything about this. No.
I know, but think about this. That is the entire basis of race, was these 5 races using your skin, your skull, not your skin, your skull. Remember, Italians are really dark. Some blame Hannibal, but the point is that have you been to Italy? I've been to Italy. There are people there so dark, it's unbelievable. And there are many millions of Americans of African heritage that look just like you two guys, including some of my cousins. And they're African American.
By ethnicity. Well, yeah, that's the whole point of this discussion, is to separate race and so
they look just like you.
So can we say, can we just substitute ethnic for all the same things that normal people would use the term race for, and then they become valid again? Like, wouldn't ethnicism?
No. Race is a real term.
Okay.
Race is a real term, and it's a real, and racism is real. But race
what do you
is
mean?
not.
What do you mean?
So racist system, how we use skin color to determine what your rights were in this country and in other places as well. So in reality, although race is not real, we used it to create a completely false system that had real consequences. So it's like people that believe in a certain religion, and you don't believe in religion. Like, I don't believe in religion at all. But it doesn't mean that you don't, go kill European American women and take their land because they're witches.
I missed that boat.
If I try to say, don't burn that lady, she's not a witch, you're just dreaming this stuff up because you don't have any place to do S&M. There's no porno books, and you guys are not really doing this for God. You're just taking her land. She doesn't have a husband or sons. You're stealing her land. Leave this European American woman alone right now. They'd be like, shut up, you blasphemer. And then I have to show them my skills.
So what do you mean when you say
they killed 60,000 European American women that own land? Didn't somebody notice? No poor women were ever witches. All the witches own land. So
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
I didn't either. I was like, so Christians were so crazy. They just went around killing women and because they really thought they were witches. I was like, that's weird. No, what it is, I was ignorant. So once I did research, I found out what they did was they come to your town, they find out who's got no husband, who's got no sons of combative ability, right? No combative sons, no husband, no father that can defend them, but somehow has land. Like your father died, your husband had in the war, died of sickness, your sons are too young, and you're the witch. And they come and they torture you sexually for a few days, not for enjoyment, but for God. And then, I like that part. You've seen the witch torture devices? Like they can't like have
where did
sexual
we go?
innuendo.
Where are we going?
Every single witch had to be sexually tortured.
Wow. Okay. Kason, did you have a question earlier that we missed?
Yeah. So I'm trying to still understand the post. So when people say race, that is not, Dale, you're saying that's not the same as ethnicity. You're saying ethnicity exists because it involves the language that people use. So like their words, the language, the syntax, the grammar.
Language.
The location, like the physical location.
No, the land your family's from. So if you go right now to Mexico, you're not a Mexican.
So the origin.
Right, the origin of your family.
And then the lineage, which you said name. Was there anything more to it than the name?
The three primary. Some people use religion too, but most people use language, family name, and land of origin of your family. That's it. That's all you got. Every single human group on Earth uses that. So yellow people don't sit around and going, oh, look how yellow you are. Let's be a family. Let's be a group. No. What makes them Chinese, Japanese, Korean is not their skin color. It's their name, their language, and the land they're from. What makes someone Irish
I'm not seeing the distinction.
is not. I'm sorry?
I don't see the distinction then. So, like, as far as like the origin, so like North Korea, South Korea, 38th parallel, they're not happy with each other.
Can't use that. Can't use that because there is no North Korea, South Korea. America created that. Remember, it's one place, and we didn't want them to take care of each other, so we came in and killed 60% of their population, and then put up our freedom space where we kill you if you try to take your whole country back under your own control. Okay, see that's you can't use that because all those Koreans are the same people minus us, meaning the United States. So if you remove the United States, they're all one people. But those people are not Chinese, and the Chinese are not the Koreans.
So I'm trying to still see the distinction between race and ethnicity. What is race and why does it not exist?
Because it has five groups.
Is that what you mean?
5 groups. It's based on your skull. Okay, it's a real thing. It was created. It's not. No one made it up. No one made up the idea of the word race, except to back up the idea that the brain, the skull of the European was superior. The brain skull, the actual skull, was superior. So the way they proved is by you looking at these skulls. This is anthropologist Johann Blumenbach. Go ahead and pull that up, if you can. Johann Blumenbach, German scientist.
I'll pull it up while you guys are talking.
5 different races. That's what I was telling you. Capoid, Australoid, Mongoloid, Negroid, and Caucasoid. That's it. There's no other races.
Okay.
He created the 5. Okay. Because he was so smart.
Race does not exist, but it does exist. There's 5 races, but race doesn't exist.
No, that doesn't exist. You see it doesn't exist because he used 5 skulls to determine that there's 5 races. And you know that that doesn't make any sense at all. There's no way you have 5 races. The skulls don't make a difference. There's people that have the same looking skull, the same size skull, the same structure of the skull, regardless of what their skin looks like. So the skin, that was something that Americans added later. That's not from over there. That was not his, he didn't add skin color to race. That was something American, that's an American thing. And that's because Americans were very limited in thought process about things like that.
Okay, so the last thing you said in your post is ethnic terrorism is real, and I see you mentioning ethnic terrorism a lot on your Facebook posts. Can you talk about that? Like, what do you mean by that?
Ethnic terrorism, meaning your ethnic group. So what they're trying to say is they're trying to lump all white people into a group, saying if you have pale skin, you're white, but not albinos, not light-skinned African Americans, not Jews, not Muslims, okay? Because there's millions of Muslims that look just like you and lighter than you with blonder hair than both of you. Millions. So they don't mean them. They don't mean those Muslims.
Okay.
They don't mean men that are blonde and blue-eyed Mexicans. They don't mean so when they say white nationalists, they don't mean anything except Anglo-Saxon Christian Protestants. So Catholics can't join. If you're putting ash on your forehead, you can't be in the Klan. If you are Jewish and blonde hair, blue eyes, you can't be in the Klan. Sorry. If you're albino, and 80% of the world's albinos live in Africa, sorry, you're not going to be able to become a member of the KKK or any of the other 1,000 ethnic hate groups. And that includes all ethnic hate groups. There are ethnic hate groups in every group of people. Let's be clear. So So when you say ethnic supremacist, you should understand there's every ethnic group has a supremacist group within it. There are African supremacist groups. There's African American supremacist groups. There are African Americans that literally hate European Americans under all conditions. They believe all European Americans are evil. There's nothing good about European Americans. There's horrible. There's nothing. You can't convince them otherwise because they're ignorant. There's Mexican hate groups. There's Latino hate groups. There's Asian hate groups. There's all kinds of different ethnic groups. So calling people white nationalists is also ignorant because, number one, you're trying to lump people with pale skin in one group, which makes no sense. And then you're failing to identify the actual threat, which is a certain ethnic identity. So if you see a pale, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Mexican, that probably isn't someone in the KKK or some other skinhead group. However, Hispanics that have the same name can join the KKK. Why is that? Because Spain is European. The difference between a Hispanic and a Latino is Latinos are from the people of Latin America, the people that are indigenous people. They're also indigenous people of the regions we call the Americas. But those people would not be Hispanic. Those people would be Latino.
I don't understand why. I don't understand maybe you can explain the built-in sort of human species need to collectivize each other into groups and then hate or prefer other groups like that. Do you have any insight into that? And then also, can you define ethnic terrorism?
So first thing is collectivism is for safety. So if you want your family to eat, you want to make sure that as a human group, you think about your kids eating. So you build a group of people with the concept of we're going to make sure that our families eat and our collective, meaning first start off with your friends, your family, your actual cousins, your family, your children, your cousins, then your friends. So what we call that cronyism and nepotism, but that's humanism, right? Most people look out for the people that are closest to them that are their friends. What good is being a friend if you're not going to look out for the people next to you? That doesn't make sense. We just call it racism because we're not included because it's based on race, right? And so we would be excluded. So that is normal though for people to exclude the other group. That's what makes America United States such an amazing place because this place identifies that is wrong. And that is not wrong in any other society on earth. So what we call racism, because that's how we define it. Another place they won't call it racism. They'll call it, we don't like people from Myanmar. They're subhumans because we're from Bangladesh. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they don't say race is not race. They say those people are animals. We kill them and rape them and torture them. And they can't, come down this boat. They can't take their boats on our river. They can't have human values. So the reality is the thing that the United States has other people don't have is, in most places, is the freedom for you to think that is wrong. Cronyism and nepotism is wrong, right? And we call it racism because it was based on the idea of races, right? Of skin color races in our case, which in other places, some places have race, but it's not the way you think of it, like skin color. In fact, it's just the opposite in some ways. Like Sudan, they consider the Christians subhumans. They're the blacks, and the Muslims enslave them and kill them and at will, and we fund those Muslims. The United States considers the Christians terrorists. So the Christians are the darker complected Sudanese people. South Sudan is all Christian. North Sudan still has slavery, and those are my skin color people, which in our country is still not light, but in their country it's considered lighter or something. So you would not recognize a person who calls himself white. People that look like me, they consider themselves white in Sudan, and when they come to America, like my employees that are actually Sudanese, it says on their documentation that they're white because in their society they consider their features to be white features. Don't ask me how that makes any sense.
Define ethnic terrorism.
Ethnic terrorism means your ethnic group terrorizing other people's ethnic groups, whatever that ethnic group is. So when Black Hebrew Israelites, is what they call themselves, went to New York and killed some Jewish people that they believe are not true Jews, that is an ethnic hate crime. They believe those Jews are fake Jews, so they're killing those Jews. Those are ethnic terrorists. Those Jews in that market didn't do anything wrong, just being there. The ethnic terrorists were these Black, specifically Black Hebrew Israelites. And they're across this country, and they believe in killing the people they think are fake Jews.
Okay, so it seems like your definition is just basically make a more precise version of a hate crime. Like rather than something being a racial-based hate crime, you'd say it's an ethnic-based.
Hate crime is not even a real thing. So the reason why, and see, that's the thing about America, the United States. What we do is we have our special etymology instead of using truth, right? So if you start using truth, it'll make things so much simpler.
That's true.
Jury nullification is the reason why we had to create federal hate crime law. Because this jogger being killed in Georgia is a common occurrence. It's not even wrong to them. Look, the police didn't even care. They were not concerned. You didn't see the police officers going, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it." Just, wow. I can't, I'm so shocked. The police, okay, all right, bye. See you later. End of story. And then someone produces a video, and all of a sudden now it's really serious. You can't just drive up to someone in a truck and just shoot them. You got to understand that's not uncommon in Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama. Why can't you just drive up and shoot brown people in that region? That's not even a thing. It's not even a thing. It's not even worth mentioning in the newspaper. It's nothing. So all of a sudden you see it on video and now it's abhorrent. It's wrong. We must do something about it. It must, oh my gosh. That's why we have what we call federal hate crime legislation, which should have just been called federal laws against murder. But the reason why it's like they had to play on words, because here's what it is. When African Americans are killed by European Americans in the United States, the peers, the colleagues, the families in that community don't see anything wrong with it when they're on the jury. So they don't care. So in Oklahoma, a police officer named Kepler, he just got convicted on his 4th trial. His daughter introduced him to her boyfriend, who was African American, and broad daylight, and he pulled out his gun and shot the boy in the head standing next to the car. And there's witnesses. And then he starts shooting at his daughter. His wife is also a police officer. So he goes on trial, and he's cleared of all wrongdoing. He goes on trial again. He's cleared of all wrongdoing. He goes on trial again. He's cleared of all wrongdoing. He had 3 trials where he could legally shoot an African-American boy in the forehead standing next to the car, and then shoot at his daughter. In the Middle Eastern countries and Muslim countries and Muslim religion, they call that an honor killing. In the United States, they just call it nothing. It's literally called nothing. So for him, it's shocking to believe that you can go to prison for pulling out your gun and shooting this African-American who's dating your daughter. That just doesn't seem even, like that's not even illegal. So the wife doesn't get charged. She hides him away from the police who are looking for him because there's witnesses. Obviously, the daughter's a witness, and so are other people. It's literally broad daylight that he pulled out the gun and shot the boy in the head. He is now in prison.
But so you'd call that ethnic terrorism.
That would be a form of that would be something different, but it'd be for ethnic reasons. But ethnic terrorism is where skinheads and neo-Nazis and KKK members go out, hunt down African Americans and kill them or torture them, or go to their birthday parties and tell them they're going to kill them. I don't know if you saw that. There was a couple that they got like 20 years in prison because they went to some African American birthday party and started terrorizing them. Well, that's normal for that society down there. You should tell them, you got to teach them as kids, hey, terrorizing people is wrong. You should have said that in school. But these kids grew up thinking they can go and terrorize people that are different than them. They can just go up. It's not even, they don't consider it a crime. So think about these kids are now in prison. These European American kids are in prison for doing something they were shown to do by their families, by their friends, by their community. It was considered normal. We call it ethnic terrorism now, or they would call that a hate crime or something. But the reality is that's normal societal structure down there. And the only thing that can change it is re-education. And the first thing you got to do to educate them is to teach them that your race does not exist. You don't have a separate race. We're all Homo sapiens. You can have a separate ethnic group, but you can't have a separate race. It's not possible. So just because a German told you something before we went there and killed 8.8 million Germans, just because a German said something doesn't make it true. It's not true. Your skull was not your race. Your race didn't exist. He was lying. He just made something up. He didn't know. He really thought those skulls made a difference. He really thought Mongoloid was a real good thing to call someone a Mongoloid. A Mongoloid is an Asian person's skull.
Right. Yeah.
Is an Indian person. An Mongoloid is an Australian Aboriginal person's or indigenous person's name. Skull. And Negroid. We'll have to say what that is. That's obvious. Negroid. But no one knows what Caucasoid is. They're like, Caucasoid. Yeah,
that sounds like profanity.
Yeah, right. But that's the actual name. Yeah. So I don't understand. Into using fake names for a fake science when we got the real name for the fake science. We don't like it though. Don't call anyone a Caucasoid, and you never want to call by a Negroid. And then, watch this one. The concept of race and ethnicity being related to some kind of color is stupid anyway. I don't know if you saw this post I put up. I put up a bunch of Lamborghinis, and they're different colors. Yeah. And I said, if you go to a dealership and you ask for a white Lamborghini or a black Lamborghini, and it comes back the same skin color as a European American or African American, you get your money back, because there's no such thing as skin color, the color of those cars.
Oh, there's like a poop brown one.
Yes, that's close.
Yeah, that's hideous.
Yeah, but that's not. You're not going to be able to go in there and say, "Give me a European person white car." That'll come back pink or reddish pink or something. And African American, tannish brownish cream something. And I mean, come on, man! It's the stupidest thing in the world. You're going to call people colors. It's dumb.
Yep,
it's dumb. So you can't have a black person and a black car be something different. You can't have a white person and a white car be something different. That's what I mean by American etymology. We have to get rid of it and just speak truth. If you want to be a color, I also uploaded this years ago. I took swaths. You ever see paint swaths? And, like different, 32, like different kind of paint, like 32, 37, cream, all the way to black to white, right? And if you want to do that, if you want to use color, use your color code number. So you can be like a 32. I'll be like a 49. So if you want to be discriminatory,
code number,
above a 49 in our area.
What's the color? Pantone. Use your Pantone color.
Exactly. Yes. That would make sense.
Yeah.
I'm ordering a car, 32 black color. You can't. I mean, you can't make up
I'm wearing.
Shit
I like that.
You're white.
I like that.
You're right, man. Let's use truth.
I also like I like thinking of like the far future when your skin color is a cosmetic thing that you can change easily and quickly, and you'd be like, today I'm feeling Pantone blue or something, like yeah.
Right. Remember this: African Americans, they bleach their skin, and I don't care how bleached they get, they still don't get to join the KKK, and some of them would. And let's be clear, some of them would sign up today to join the KKK right away. And remember that many of them did. You're just like, in the KKK, you're like, he gets real tan in the summertime. I noticed that guy gets real tan. He's Italian. He's Italian. We're like Italians now. No, he's African American. You just don't want to know. You just didn't know that. Or my favorite is he keeps cutting his hair off bald. But really, if he let his hair grow out, you'd see his hair is real curly, like an African American's hair. But he's got blue eyes. So I think he's just dark-skinned Italian. No, he's actually African American. And so the concept, man, is totally fake, man. The whole concept of using skin color identity is what has to go for us to have the next conversation. The next conversation, why do we do this? Why do we do that? And what do we do to change it? So we first have to have the truthful conversation about our concepts that we were already taught lies in the first place, that skin color was an identity. African Americans owned plantations with African Americans on them, thousands. So there was never a time in which racism in our society allowed African Americans to own European Americans or Latino Americans or Asian Americans. The ownership in our country was for those of African heritage that were purchased. So free Africans came to America, and you could not, legally, you could not enslave them. Okay, so understand it's a real thing, the concept of lineage and your name. So remember, African Americans all have the name of a European. Africans that immigrated to America have their African name, like Elon Musk and Charlize Theron. They have their African names. They're also Dutch, but they consider themselves Africans. When they came to America, they're African American. They're born in Africa. They became American. Americans that are of African heritage are not the same. So I'm an American of African heritage, right? African freedom fighting heritage, because we fought for our freedom and we won. There was never a time we were like, let's just hang out. That did not happen. That's a fantasy from watching television shows. There was constant battle, constant war, constant violence. And remember this about, I have Native American relatives, like many African Americans or Americans of African heritage. And what I didn't know, you heard of the Trail of Tears?
Yeah.
Have you heard of the Trail?
Yes.
Okay. The Trail of Tears had something missing from all the pictures and all the art, renditions. 1,200 African American slaves died on that trail because those Native Americans had African slaves, African people enslaved. Nobody had a slave. There's no such thing as a slave. There were people that were enslaved. Let's be clear about the difference. There's never been a slave. There were people held captive and enslaved, but there was no slave. It's like there was no masters. There was captors, but there was no masters. Nobody ever had a master. The Trail of Tears had African people enslaved on it. 1,200.
Okay.
They have something called the five. They call them the five tribes of what's their term? Sophisticated tribes or civilized tribes. And I didn't understand this about the triple nickel, the Buffalo men, the Buffalo soldiers. They killed Native Americans proudly. And I remember thinking, why would you hunt down Native Americans? You're African American. You're trying to be free. I didn't know that African Americans were also enslaved by Native American tribes. I didn't know Native Americans had plantations. There were revolts. Africans revolted, and Native Americans hunted them down, killed them, and brought back enslaved people and enslaved them and killed them for running away. And I had never heard of that. And one more thing I wanted to bring up. I'm glad you brought this up. You said, I never hear about this in the news. Please remember, 99% of the world, everything in it, you're not going to hear about in the news. That's one part. And what you hear about in the news, what you hear is a distortion of reality. It's a distortion of reality. So remember, it's lies, right? My anti-government people, please remember, that's part of the government lies. They control the propaganda. The media is part of that. They are lying. And I lie sometimes. Okay, you can't pick and choose. My anti-government people, please stop picking and choosing. It's all lies. You're right. But not the parts you don't like. It's all lies. So I run across people that are like anti-government, right? And yeah, imagine that.
No. I don't think that's true. Like even a flat earther could make a true statement. We need to evaluate everything that comes out of everyone independently. Like it could be true. Like
just remember when someone is telling you something that's from an organization that uses disinformation to control the masses, it can't tell you the truth. It's always going to tell you that a guy in the Middle East didn't need suntan lotion. had long hair and pale skin, and died for your sins. They're never going to change that narrative because it serves a larger purpose.
So
unless you live in Asia, and then wait, unless you live in Asia, then he has yellow skin and slanted eyes. Did you know that? Did you know that Jesus in their church has yellow skin and slanted eyes? Did you know that?
Did not know
You should
that.
check that out. Yes, the Koreans do not pray to a hippie-looking European guy. Their Jesus has yellow skin and slanted eyes. And I want you to check that out. That is really crazy.
Interesting.
But African Americans refuse. Hold on. African Americans refuse to see Jesus in an image that looked like themselves. Did you know that? So
No,
during
I
the
did not.
60s, African Americans, doing research, discovered that they think that people who live in the Middle East might have a tan. So they said, using that theory, that they think Jesus, they believe in Jesus, they believe that there's a religious person named Jesus, and it's in the Bible, and they believe that he would be tan. So they got a rendition, an artist, to make what they consider to be the Black Jesus. And they took this and put it in African-American churches, and the African-American churches refused it. They refused to look at a Jesus with a tan.
Okay, I mean,
But every other culture in the world other than Africans, their Jesus looks like their people, just so you know. Which think about that. Go do research on that. That's amazing, man. So Koreans and Asians, they have Christians everywhere, but their Christian iconography is of a Asian looking person in Asian churches.
wouldn't he have been Middle
it's very
Eastern,
strange.
like pretty tan? Like in reality? Like,
Nope.
I don't know. I don't know what he
Not the
actually would have
American
been.
church. Listen,
okay.
not the American church.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay,
'cause
so I think a good thing
It's
to
law.
I think a good way to
They got-
let's sort of wrap this up by talking about like what an end to racism, or what an end to ethnic terrorism would look like. Like, and I want to point back to what the commenter said earlier when they said that they had this wife from, I forgot where they said it was from, but she looked at this list and she was like, why do you even have this? Like, it wasn't something that even occurred to her. Like, to me, that lack of collectivized thinking is what we should be trying to achieve. Like, that is the end to racism, the lack of collectivism around attributes that are involuntarily selected. Like, you can collectivize
Anyway,
people based on the ideas or labels that they choose to take on. Like, if you choose to take on the label of politician, or the label of police officer, or the label of member of the army, those are all voluntarily chosen labels. And if you want to collectivize people around those labels, I think there's some utility there. But when you collectivize people around labels that they had nothing to do with, no choice in the matter, no agency in picking or getting rid of or accepting or taking on, that's where so much violence and so much thinking out of line with reality starts to take place. And so I think a world without that type of thinking is what a world without racism would look like. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So the first thing you got to do is, I believe in humanism for me personally. And so I preach about that constantly, about humanism. Look at all people as though they're an extended member of your own family. So when I come across a crazy person that's mentally ill, that's Asian, European American, African American, Mexican American, it doesn't matter. And when I come across someone who's angry, and they can be rightfully angry, it doesn't matter what their ethnic identity is, doesn't matter what their skin color is. I look at them like my family. If they're drunk and they're high and they're angry, I say, what would I want someone to do to my family member in this case? What would I not want them to do? Why can't you look at people as your family? If you just do that, you can solve issues in the best way possible. Should you treat someone a certain way? Yeah, you should treat them the way you want your own mom treated, your own dad, your own brother. In general, right? In a healthy way. You don't like your mom, dad, or brother? Don't do that. So at the end of the day, treat people the way you'd wish you could be treated yourself in the same situation, and take it a step further, do better than that. There's no reason for you to not treat someone better than you treat your own self. And so if you just look at it that way, You can solve issues non-violently because you want to. Now, you can also find reasons for righteous violence, and they can always do that. And that's how we end up with lots more killings and inappropriate interactions. So once and that's why I created a philosophy, something we live by here in Detroit. It's called the anti-kill philosophy. There's always a way to preserve human life under all conditions. And so as a result of that philosophy, we've been able to save lives in serious situations of violence and crime and other things because we believe that human life is so valuable and so vital.
Kaysen, do you have any final thoughts or questions?
So what would you say, based on that philosophy, what if somebody was initiating aggression? Like, is there a place for, you said righteous violence, and then shortly after that you said something to the effect of it may be inappropriate, and I don't want to misconstrue what you're saying. Is there a place for self-defense in up to lethal force, kind of in the way that you think?
Well, if you have the ability, there's always a way to preserve life under all conditions and prevent the use of lethal force. Sometimes that would not be that the logistics are not there, but if you have the logistic ability, you can actually plan to not kill them. Okay. Now, in the event that you could not, if that just does not exist, then obviously, while defending yourself, that may end up with a situation where a person is no longer able to pose a threat to you or anyone else. However, the reality is with proper training, proper planning, and proper equipment, you can actually create a condition where life does not have to be taken because you're able to prevent the conditions for escalation. And escalation meaning escalation to the part we have to use fatal force. So, for example, the reason why we don't have shootouts on airplanes, we don't let people on airplanes. They'd have guns. So if you want to have shootouts on airplanes, it's very easy. You let people on the airplane, and then you tell them they can't have a gun on the airplane. That's all you got to do. The same thing we do at schools. You let a person in school and then say, hey, you can't shoot kids. And then we go up there and shoot them. Hopefully, I guess it's the plan for active shooter in the school, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. You let a gunman in the school and then you go up there to shoot him, maybe? That's dumb. Very dumb.
Who lets a gunman in a school? I don't understand that.
Gunmen go to any school they want to. What do you mean?
You mean because there's no actual security that would prevent them from coming in? I got you. Okay. Yeah, I got you.
They might try. It doesn't happen.
Right.
You know what's happened? School teachers take down gunmen. Kids take down gunmen. School administrators take down gunmen. 9 out of 10 gunmen are defeated by the people already at the school. And the reason we don't hear about it is because a bunch of people didn't get killed already. So remember that 9 out of 10, that's what they got to remember about recency bias. Recency bias, the things you hear on the news, makes you believe that's what's frequently happening. It makes you believe that's the most serious thing happening. And, that's where a lot of people have misunderstandings about crime in general. So example is African Americans primarily live in cities. And right now, one of the recency biases you're hearing is white person calls police on black person for nothing, for no reason. That's all day, every day. So black people are sitting around, not calling the police ever. They're just being black, just sitting around. I'm being black. You're being black. Let's just sit around being black. Don't call the police for anything. Let's just be black sitting here. Oh, look, a white person's about to call us for being black sitting here. According to CNN, white people just walk around, see a black person, and I'm going to call the police. Black people don't do that, but I'll do it. The concept is insane. Let me tell you what really happened. African Americans call the police all day, every day, for the dumbest shit you can imagine, just like European Americans. African Americans are calling for, I just bought some weed, and he did not give me the right amount of weed back. I was trying to buy some weed, took my money, and gave me no weed back. I swear to you, that's a real story that happens. It's what happens when you're smoking too much, and you're feeling good about life, and you forget it's illegal. Now it's not illegal as much, right?
Yeah.
But I'm from Ann Arbor. I grew up around European American. 99% of people I grew up around were European American, and they smoked weed my whole life. I did not know it was illegal until I came to Detroit, and African Americans were going to jail for having a joint. Like everybody in the car gets arrested.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, this is really strange. But African Americans do call the police for nonsense reasons. That's an extreme case. But the normal reasons are there's an African American doing something at my door. They have a clipboard, and they're saying they're from the water department. They even got a van that says they're from the water department. It's because they're from the water department. There's somebody at my door. There are some black people trying to get in, trying to ask me questions about something, and they got some stupid thing on it says Democrat or Republican or something. They want us to sign something. I think they're criminals. They're asking you to vote. I mean, they're calling all day, and so I'm the one who gets the calls, right? So one guy says to me, African American, wealthy businessman, says, "Oh, security, you guys aren't shit." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Oh, you guys are calling, and I see these kids every day with their backpacks on. I look around, there's no cops, there's no security. You guys aren't doing shit." I said, "What do you mean?" "I see them every morning, 9 o'clock, and you're not anywhere to be seen." I said, "What do you want to?" Wait, what do you mean? They're walking by? "Yes, and I see the same group of kids at 3 o'clock every day, black kids with backpacks on." So you thought we would be following the brown children in your neighborhood?
Okay.
I said,
all
"Sir,
right.
don't you have brown children?" "Yes." "You want us to follow your brown children to the neighborhood?" "Well, I don't know these other kids. They don't know you either. We're not going to be following brown kids. And by the way, brown kids go to school every day. Okay, sir?" And you know what he did? He felt embarrassed. And he didn't call me again. A lady calls. She says, "There black guys across the street, and this is some bullshit. I need you to check them right now." So I say, "Yes, ma'am." I go over there. I check the guys. Listen, when I say I check them, I ask them for their ID. They're on private property. I ask them to show they have the key to the house. Okay? I asked them to show a work order if they're doing work. These guys were doing all of that. They showed me everything. They had a key to the house, which means they have control of the house, which legally means they are in control of the space, which means I have to get off the property when they say leave. That's it. And if they don't show me their ID, I'll just call the government, and the government sends government people to come inspect them and to get their ID if they don't want me to do it. But I swear to you, I've never had anyone refuse to show me ID on private property. Why? Because I respectfully ask them to prove why they're on someone's private property, and they don't mind. So I get all that. I verify with the homeowner. These are your workers here. I call the homeowner. Fine. I call back the caller, and I say, "Listen, ma'am, I verified them. They're legally here. Everything's fine." She says, "No, I don't think so." I said, "Ma'am, I just told you I verified them." No, I'm calling the police." I said, "Ma'am, you don't need to call police. I already verified them." She called the police, no joke, 30 more times. The police came out and interfered with their work 20 times.
Wow.
She's African American and she's a judge.
Oof.
She refused
The
to listen
judge
to me.
part.
She refused the facts.
Man.
She refused the facts. I get
All
a
right.
call one morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. Guy says to me, "I need you over here." I said, "What's going on, sir?" He says, "I need you to follow. There's a suspicious guy over here. He's walking in the middle of the street. Black male black." He said, "Male black, wearing all black with something in his hands. 7:30 in the morning." Now, here's what I can tell you for sure. If there was a criminal, he would not be walking down the street at 7:30 in the morning wearing all black with anything in his hands. I already know that over the phone. The person I'm talking to is an executive in law enforcement. He is European American, and he's married to an African American woman. And I now have to be political, because if I tell him a story about how stupid he is, that won't work out for me politically. So I got to play along.
All right.
I go to and I do my investigation, and I come back without getting in the news myself. I do the investigation on the male black walking down the middle of the street. You hear you hear these on CNN all the time. So the way I verify them is without getting on CNN. I don't interfere with people's freedom. I don't go and create a condition of adversarial interaction. So I found the guy, and guess what? He's a judge. So this law enforcement administrator wants me to follow a judge while he's walking through his neighborhood.
There you
He's
go.
lived there for 40 years. This judge has been living there.
Wow.
Could you imagine? I run up on him. What are you doing here, sir? Why do you live? What are you doing? What do you mean you're a judge? Show me your ID. He's jogging.
Wow.
So what I'm saying, man, these narratives from about news, the news media, when you're watching it, the recency bias makes you believe things are frequently happening, and it's completely worse than you ever thought. Because let me tell you what else happens. When the African Americans are calling, the police will actually get upset in the urban community, and these are African American police officers. 9 out of 10 police officers I know are African American. And they can actually get upset and will actually ask the ID of the caller and begin to look for warrants on them for calling them. About a woman screaming, about bullets firing, about someone threatening to kill someone, chasing someone. They will get the ID of the person calling and then begin to find out if they pay tickets or have any tickets or what child support warrants or start looking around to give them a ticket for calling and harassing them about whatever their call was about. So I tell people to call the police constantly. I tell them they have to call the police. 911 is the first thing you do before taking any action, so you can't be considered vigilante and end up shooting a jogger, for example. Okay? So what you do is you call 911 and you maintain surveillance. You don't shoot the jogger. If you think you went into an abandoned house and was looking around, which I'm not sure exactly how that became very illegal, but okay. So what you would do is you'd follow them at a distance and tell the police on duty where the person went. That's all. Or you know what you can do? You can go talk to them. Hey, how's it going? Listen, we're having a picnic, country hoedown next weekend. I'd like to invite you to a dance. If you're available, young man. What's your name? Here's a flyer. I'd like to invite you to a dance next weekend. Remember, he is an unarmed jogger. The chance of him killing you on the truck is like 0.0. So
I just spent 7 hours of my life debating this story yesterday. I'm personally just fucking over it right now. So maybe we can have a talk once all the facts are out there later. But
Jason, you don't have to terrorize people to make yourself safe. You can just simply go talk to them. When I come across criminals, the real criminals in Detroit, at night in the dark, I talk to them. You know what their hands are doing in their pockets? I don't know. Do they have a gun? I don't care. I want them to leave their gun and their hand in their pocket while I'm offering them free services of bodyguarding walking through our neighborhood at 3:30 in the morning because I don't want them to be robbed, raped, or killed. And guess what? They don't want free bodyguard services. They don't come back. And we're not on CNN. So you can create safety safely even when it's not really a jogger. It's actually a criminal, a real criminal. You still don't have to have an adversarial interaction with them. You just don't. There's no impetus, no real reason you have to be violent towards other people. It's just not true. That's a fantasy we created. But you can create violence easily just by how you talk to people. You can actually walk up to someone and offend them just by talking to them and being in an adversarial interaction just because of how you look at them. Or you can learn how not to do what we teach.
Kaysen, did you have something you want to say before we wrap this up?
Yeah. In the comments, somebody said to tell you Kadama says hi. Maybe that means something to you. Does that mean something to you?
Hi. Hey, Kadama.
Okay.
That's our code.
Okay. Well, that was it. I got to bounce in a sec. So.
All right, Mr. Dale. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
That came to Detroit.
Oh, I see. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate your time. It was a very interesting conversation. I've never heard talk like that before, so it was interesting to have that. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you going out of your way to connect with us today, and I look forward to future chats.
Yes, thank you. Definitely. Please do. Anytime.
All right, guys, thanks for watching.
Everybody.
We have one more video that will come out today. It'll probably be, I don't know if I'll live stream it or just record the video, but the title of the video is probably going to be like, well, he got fired. So you'll know what I'm talking about if you know what I'm talking about. All right, thanks again, Dale. We will see you next time.
Okay, guys. All right, thank you.